Politics, 10-min read. Takeaways. Supreme Court stands up to Donald Trump on emergency tariffs by John Fritze, Devan Cole. Devan Cole, 9 hours ago. The U.S. Supreme Court is reflected in a puddle on Friday. The U.S. Supreme Court is reflected in a puddle. The Supreme Court struck down President Donald Trump's sweeping emergency tariffs on Friday, a significant decision that could redirect the course of the administration's economic and foreign policy agenda. The 6-3 decision, which included both conservative and liberal justices in the majority, had the potential to reset the relationship between a White House that has repeatedly pushed legal boundaries and a Supreme Court that has, in case after case, blessed those efforts since Trump returned to power. But, like most major Supreme Court opinions, the ruling Friday raised new questions about how the court's broad parsing of federal law would play out in practical terms for American businesses, consumers, and voters heading into a midterm election. In a combative news conference hours after the decision, Trump attacked several justices and announced he would rely on other legal authorities to keep tariffs in place. Here's what to know about the blockbuster decision. First, major merits loss for Trump. Since returning to the White House, Trump has racked up an impressive record at the conservative Supreme Court, including a decision that made it harder for lower courts to block his agenda and a series of important emergency decisions, blessing his immigration policies and his push to consolidate power within the executive branch. And in 2024, the court granted the president immunity from criminal prosecution for some of the actions he took in the waning days of his first term. A landmark decision that the administration continues to regularly cite in recent cases. But that successful record in major merits cases came to a crashing halt Friday. Two of the justices he named to the bench during his first term, Neil Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, ruled against him. "I'm ashamed of certain members of the court," Trump said in an angry news conference at the White House reacting to the decision, calling the justices in the majority a disgrace to our nation. President Donald Trump speaks during a press briefing held at the White House on Friday. President Donald Trump speaks during a press briefing held at the White House on Friday. Kevin Dietsch, Getty Images. Even though the court's decision to strike down Trump's emergency tariffs was predicted following the oral arguments last fall, the ruling is a formal repudiation of the administration's push-the-limits approach. It underscored the notion that federal courts